Hi everybody and welcome to our World Mental Health Day programme, and I am super excited today to be joined by Vaughan, who is the founder of Flip Your Dog for Mental Health, who we are working on a fundraiser with this week to raise money for Centrepoint for Homelessness Awareness Week. Hi Vaughan, I'll let you introduce yourself because you'll probably do a much better job than me.
Well, no, great. Lovely to be taking part in this podcast, and thank you for having me. I think you've kind of set things up really well. I'm Vaughan. I've got a background in TV production. I'm a director and producer working in documentary and factual entertainment. And during lockdown, Flip Your Dog is kind of a charitable fundraising entity that's manifested, and it's going really well, and connecting with people like you is a really phenomenal part of this journey.
Cool, I love the name as well. Flip Your
Yeah, I
Dog.
quite like it. Not everyone gets it. It's a reference to Wild Thing, which
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of yoga in Australia, and I don't know whether it's a slang that translates globally, but it's also quite nice because I think flipping your dog, we'll talk about what it's about shortly, but it's about just kind of thinking slightly differently about the way we approach life in general, economics, our day-to-day activities, and just what we can do with our day-to-day activities to make the world a better place. So it's not just about yoga, but it does have a yoga kind of reference as well.
Oh, I love that. And it's so relevant, poignant, and important at the moment. So what kind of led you to set up Flip Your Dog for Mental Health? What was the kind of catalyst that started this movement?
Right. Yeah, good question. Basically, it all came about during lockdown. Our first event was a one-day event on May the 23rd for Mental Health Awareness Week.
Yeah, I remember.
And I have been interested in yoga over the years, on and off, best part of 20 years. I've been studying yoga teacher training, and then that came to a pause during lockdown. But it's always been part of my life, really. And I think the disruption of lockdown and the pandemic led a lot of people to think about how we can support community, about the things we can do to help people that don't put ourselves at risk, or that kind of that, we keep ourselves going but help other people as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know quite what the moment was, but the way I describe it is like it was a passing thought that I didn't let pass. I thought,
Grabbed it.
I like you. Let's see what you're about, and kind of just grabbed it. And then kind of I remember talking to someone saying, "Oh, I've got this idea," and then I thought, I think I might go for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, with our first fundraiser in May, it was supposed to be a one-day fundraiser,
Yeah.
but a few classes part on days either side, and we ended up raising just under £2,500 for
Wow.
charity who provide mental health services and wellbeing services for vulnerable people. And so I thought, this is too good a thing to not do on a regular basis. So then the exploration and the journey began.
That's amazing. So you were one of those people that was like crazy busy during lockdown. You weren't watching like Netflix, and you were creating something incredible. That's amazing. Really, really amazing.
Mm.
And again, kind of
Oh,
what
thank
kind
you.
of shape is Flip Your Dog for Mental Health kind of taking now, since that first fundraiser during lockdown, which helped to bring people together and obviously create amazing funds and awareness for charity? What kind of what's happening now with it?
Yeah, well, the interesting transition that I've been exploring and kind of sounding people out about is that one-day events where essentially yoga teachers and studios give up an hour of their time, essentially donate an hour of their time, and then the proceeds of that class goes to charity. They're great as a one-off event, but they're not sustainable.
Yeah.
So I say we, it's a me, but it's a we because there's a family of people kind of involved. What's happening now, and we're now in a model where studios and teachers are coming on board in a sustainable way, because obviously, pandemic or not, this is yoga is a business, and there's a money making aspect of it that, we'd be naive and would be, that's a thing.
Yeah,
So
it's an industry as well.
yeah, and it's a really important, vibrant industry. Of all the things that are out there, this is something that is really the beating heart of well-being within the world community, and long may that continue. But it's so we're what's happening now is we have a schedule that covers pretty much 7 days a week, often, where studios are offering classes, then mainly live online classes for obvious reasons, and a percentage of the proceeds from those classes goes to the charities we support. That could be 1%, it could be 100%. And
Wow.
so that's the kind of the day-to-day basis upon which Flip Your Dog from Mental Health kind of puts yoga out there. And it's something that kind of just keeps the awareness of it alive. And if you just put 10 pence in the kitty for a charity every day, and loads of people did that, that's
Yeah.
going to accumulate. We don't have to mortgage the house and go all in and just
Yeah.
give £50 a day. And it's about just nurturing a support and an awareness of the work that these charities are doing.
So small kind of changes, which I guess comes back to what you were saying at the beginning, that lovely message of actually changing the way we, I suppose, approach our day-to-day lives, rather than thinking it has to be a huge amount of money that we throw at one charity. It can just be getting involved in different things, part of the community, and different projects, I suppose, in your day-to-day as well.
Indeed, yeah. Like there's Ecosia, the search engine. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Every time you do a search, they all their profits, they plant trees.
Oh yeah, yeah, I love that
There
one.
are various things. Yeah, and ethical banking. It doesn't really change what people are doing. People are still putting their money in a bank, but the money
Yeah.
that is in the bank is then invested in things that nurture a positive outcome for community and environment. So yeah, I'd like to kind of ideally Flip Your Dog will get the clarity that that's essentially what it is. It's everyday actions that support the well-being and the positive change in community. Yeah.
Mm, amazing. And so, kind of looking back over this year, and I mean, you've been busy since the start of the year, but what have you found has helped to support you on kind of your mental health journey? I think it's great that people are starting to talk a lot more about mental health now. I think we're really getting a lot further with destigmatizing mental health, which is a really key message in the work we're doing as well at MoreMind. But it would be great to hear about the things that you do to support. I wonder if actually the work you're doing around giving back has helped to support you as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting point. I've come to realize that in many ways, the passion I've got for this project is in keeping with my life path, if you like, as it is. There's in the here and now, there is a certain sense of it. I'm doing something positive, and that in turn is making me feel positive. It's a bit of I've been fortunate enough to find something that I'm passionate about and that is accessible during lockdown,
Yeah.
that has meant that I can really commit to that. And I've almost developed an obligation to it. It's got its life, and I need to keep myself going to help it grow. But I think on a more kind of day-to-day, away from the Flip Your Dog thing, I mean, yoga and meditation have been rocks in my life over the years. Like I've gone through some pretty heavy times where I've been isolated and felt really vulnerable and like I had nowhere to turn. And that's the ego not wanting to
Mm.
ask for help. Classic kind of 101 stuff, but it applies to us all. And the things that I always return to are, for me, is that notion of it's almost like you've got a knot and you have a massage, and then that relieves the tension in your neck, and then you don't get the headache, and then emotionally you feel better. The
Yeah.
massage for me is yoga. That gets my body moving, and then that helps my breath move, and then the meditation that happens around that kind of almost helps me tap into a clarity, and I can communicate better, and also just understand my capacity better. We're
Mm.
not invincible. We're not able to help everyone and ourselves, and sometimes you just got to say, guess what, this is a bit of a shit show. And we're kind of not alone. Also though, I've really been fortunate because I did hit a low point probably about maybe 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago, a particularly low point. And I'm very blessed to have friends, like one or two friends, who are just, their availability has been timely, and my relationship with them has been such that we talk, and
Yeah,
talking is such good therapy. It's just
it's
the
so
best,
important. It's so
the best.
important, isn't it? I mean,
Non-judgmental conversations.
exactly. And what you were saying about isolation, I was recently recording with our kind of resident psychologist, the yoga psychologist Stephanie Minchin, and she was talking about how isolation can really impact our mental health. So there's no wonder that so many people have been struggling through lockdown and through being much more isolated, not going to work, not going to, out of the house so much, being physically locked in one space for longer periods of time. And actually socialization, being in community, being around people, or just talking to other people, sharing how you're feeling, is such a powerful tool to help support our mental health during this time.
Yeah,
And I think
really,
it's
really.
it's really wonderful of you to feel comfortable enough to share that as well. Is there any kind of advice that you would give to people? I mean, I know that there's obviously a much higher risk for men in terms of suicide, because I think it is still an area, mental health is still, a very taboo subject for a lot of people. It's a very sensitive, vulnerable topic for a lot of people. And I think it's really wonderful to hear from you, and to know that you're comfortable sharing your journey as well. Is there any advice that you would give to people struggling with their mental health at the moment?
I think probably the main thing I'd say is you're not alone.
Yeah.
Like really, you're not alone. We in dark times, we so easily put these barriers up around us that make us feel like we're alone, and that's just simply not the case. And there's it's if you the relief that we all feel when we finally tell someone that thing that we haven't been sharing with them, or it's like letting the pressure valve off, and everything in life just becomes easier.
Yeah.
And so I think knowing that you're not alone, somehow, just, it's such a cliche, but it's, we're not supposed to be these invincible human beings, and that's a myth, such a myth. I went to a thing, the School of Life. I don't know if you know the School of
Yeah.
Life, run by Linda Breton in Australia, and it was all about uh, being resilience,
Yes.
and it was held in this theatre. It probably held about maybe 400 people, and I had for some reason I was talking to a friend down the front. I looked back at the audience before the thing started. There were about 3 men there, and the
Wow.
rest of the people were women. And that for me is an example of how men feel about the notion of resilience. It's almost like we're supposed to be resilient, and we're not. It's a myth.
Oh,
We're allowed to
such
be.
such an outdated belief, that still, I think,
Yeah,
still holds a lot of power, I think. But yeah, something that we really need to move past.
but
Kind of
there's also, yeah, the notion of there's a lot of courage and a lot of strength in admitting our shortcomings, and, or not even our shortcomings, our insecurities. So
yeah,
there's and so it's actually more, there's a growth process that comes from exploring our vulnerabilities. But I mean, but I think in terms of that isolation that I think a lot of people feel, and guys feel, when they're feeling in a low mental state, try and mix up your environment if you can, because the on the one hand, we don't like being fake. It's, and sometimes when you're feeling really low, you just can't face the music of going out there and putting on a face. But there's also, for example, people do drag themselves into work because they have to, even when they're feeling low. They
yeah,
do
of course.
drag themselves into different environments. And there's something to be said for acknowledging that we can put on a slightly different mask at times when we need to. And if we're in such a low state, it sometimes feels like it's eternal and it will never end. Just experiencing that moment of being someone else is subconsciously, if you think about it, that's an awareness that our state of depression or our state of mood can shift as well. Nothing's permanent, you know. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if that's any use or not.
No, it is. I think I really love that analogy. I remember reading something, and I actually think it was Jim Carrey, strangely, on an account, and he described depression as instead of depressed, needing deep rest from the avatar that we're playing, and this idea of actually when we sometimes we're so faced with these avatars that we step into, if it's our Instagram account, Facebook, whatever it is, our roles at work, actually what we often need is rest from those kind of avatars or masks that we wear. But I completely agree. I think there's definitely a lot to be said for, even when you feel like isolating and hiding from the world and not being around other people, sometimes that the best remedy is actually to put yourself in that uncomfortable situation so that you're not isolated and you're in fact around other people and asking for help or support. Yeah, really important.
And actually, on that note, on going through that low point I mentioned, I did actually ring my GP and explain that I'd like some support, some counselling, which I actually just started a few days ago, which was wonderful.
Brilliant.
I mean, I'm familiar with counselling and stuff like that, but one of the things that they pointed out is that things like the Samaritans, they're not just for people who are thinking about, ending their life. The Samaritans are literally a phone line, and you can talk and you could ring and talk about how your football team lost that day. You can talk about whatever you want, and they're just people to listen. And so sometimes the idea of talking to a friend or work colleague or something, you feel like you're too exposed. And there are places like the Samaritans is probably the best one at the moment, because I know that they're always available, that you can talk to. But also there are arenas and platforms where you can attend either virtually or in person, where you can just listen and witness other people expressing themselves. And it kind of allows you to realize that you're not alone. And, it's a shared experience. And sometimes you may even feel like you want to give that other person a bit of advice. And then that makes you realize that you've got a strength inside.
You've got the tools as well.
So
it's quite similar to yoga in a way. Like I always describe yoga as my therapy, and I know a lot of people describe it in a similar way, that they find yoga very therapeutic. And I think it's that difference that probably a lot of us have noticed since stuff moved online, that actually I practice yoga on my own, but I don't get the same feeling at all as when I practice in a group, even if it's online, and you just know that shared energy is there. There's something about coming together as people, knowing that you're all there to practice together for whatever it is, whether you're coming to your mat for self-care, whether you're coming to your mat to move your body physically, whatever it is. There's definitely that sense of power in energy and power in coming together.
That connectedness.
Exactly, that connectedness that's so important for mental health and well-being as well. So Vaughan, tell me, what do you kind of see as the future for Flip Your Dog for mental health? I think all this community work and everything we've been talking about is so interesting. Do you kind of see Flip Your Dog for mental health one day becoming, I suppose it is a way of bringing communities together, but do you think that's where it's going to grow, or do you think it's going to be quite organic?
I think to a point, it's important to let it develop in the way that manifests. I think that so often in life we give ourselves too much stress by thinking about a fixed outcome. And it means that we can't actually appreciate what's going on now, because it's not fitting that outcome. We want a relationship to be perfect in a certain way, and then we get stressed out because it's not working out that way. But there's another perfect that is manifesting right in front of us. So I think with Flip Your Dog for mental health, to a point, letting it all grow organically, but there's there's a kind of a trajectory, if you like, a game plan, so to speak. We are looking to become an official charity ourselves.
Wow, that's so exciting.
Yeah. And so anyone out there who feels like they'd like to help me set up a charity of startups, I need a COO and I need someone who's good at finance. So if there's anyone out there who feels like they might have a day, a week spare to, or just some advice, I am obviously going through this and I feel like I'm working through it, but it's a lot to kind of do
A
from a
lot to
place
do.
of one person
Yeah.
operation kind of through to, yeah. But I think that, yeah, you've nailed it. It's very much about being a community where yoga studios and teachers are aware of what we're doing, and we're essentially a mechanism that that channels money to the charities we support.
Yeah.
You know, moving forward, I do envisage there being, maybe in 2 or 3 years' time, there being a cafe where people from vulnerable communities that we support can get work and can start getting some work experience, where there's the kind of community that we're building online, slowly has a physical presence. And I'm not naive enough to think that a few Shanti Oms and a few downward dogs are gonna, let the burden of being an asylum seeker or a refugee or being homeless or, the single, you know, that isn't the medicine for everyone in a literal way, but the access to yoga and well-being is something that I think that we could down the track help support by this is the dream ticket for there to be like a cafe with a shared workspace upstairs and a yoga studio where there could be, everything from classes that are subsidized or free for people from vulnerable communities, and also potentially teacher training for people from that background who can then share that within those communities, because, kind of spread that energy. But the 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 first couple of years, like now and for the foreseeable future, for the next year or so, is very much about encouraging yoga teachers and studios to get in touch and say, hey, you know what, I'd really like to support mental health support work and well-being in the community, and I've got the capacity to maybe run one workshop a week, or no, sorry, one workshop a month, and give 50% or even 10% of those proceeds. Get in touch, find out, let's talk about what your level of sustainability is, and if you'd like to help out, we'd really like to do that. And yeah, like I say, becoming a charity is really important because it just helps us just distribute that money. And we want to start a trust fund so that we can actually give funding to initiatives outside of the yoga community that are supporting mental health. But it's all about transparency. So we're not going to do any of that without there being a very clear transparency thing. Because charities, yeah, people are like, your charity, what are you doing with the money? Where is this is going in your pocket? Where are you going on holiday next?
It's really transparency. Very
always important.
An amazing vision for the future. I mean, from an idea that stemmed from lockdown to the vision in a few years' time for all those incredible things. That's absolutely amazing. I've got like goosebumps when you were talking about it. Like, wow.
Yeah.
And then lastly, Vaughan, if you would just let anyone listening and our community at More Yoga know how they can get involved with you're doing a big awareness week next week, Homelessness Awareness Week. We're running a Back to Yoga fundraiser for stress and anxiety with me on the Wednesday night. So we're sharing that across our channels and stuff. So everyone, please join. It'd be awesome. But what other ways can people get involved with your program for next week that you're running?
Well, we've got a load of studios and teachers offering classes, and on our website, www.flipyourdogformentalhealth.com, we've got, it'll probably be on the screen at the moment, maybe, or somewhere, there's a link. We've got a schedule, and that lists our ongoing classes as well as the classes for the Homeless Week awareness campaign. So you can look on there, see the classes that are available, and then by booking, you basically register with our booking app, which is Team Up. You'll get sent an email which will give you the Zoom links for the class, and then you're then encouraged to donate the cost of a class through our donate button, which is on the website. And it's as simple as that, really. If you feel like you'd just like to donate, you can. But there's also links to the websites and the platforms for our teachers and studios who are supporting us. And so it's about kind of letting people know about these studios as well, and giving them a platform to celebrate their work as well.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, amazing. Cool. Well, thank you so much. And we'll have the link to your website and so people will know how to book and how to donate in the text for this upload on YouTube, just so everyone knows where to look.
Awesome. Good stuff. Good stuff.
But,
I know, right? It's a whole new world.
Easy, whole new world. But thank you so much for joining us today, Vaughan, and for launching our program for World Mental Health Week today as well. And we will.
An absolute honour. Really, really nice to join you.
Awesome. It was good to see you, Vaughan, and thank you so much for sharing so much about your journey as well. It was an absolute pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you. See you soon.
See you soon. Bye.